This week's US CQM Forecast Alert is final sales as well as GDP show a strong economy in 2024 Q4. S&P 500 increased 1.37% in December, higher than the ARIMA forecast of 0.11%. Both goods imports and exports grew much faster in November than the ARIMA forecast. Wholesale trade inventories fell well short of the ARIMA forecast, resulting in a large downward revision of the inventory changes in wholesale industry. As a result, the economic growth rate on the expenditure side was revised downward by 0.46% to 2.26%, mainly due to a downward revision in wholesale inventory changes. The average growth rate of both sides as a better measure of economic growth rate was revised downward by 0.25% to 2.88%, just below 3%. We can see the economy in 2024 Q4 has been recovering rapidly since mid-November. Both real final sales and real domestic final sales have also improved rapidly since mid-November, and the growth rates are predicted to exceed real GDP slightly. It can be seen the economy in 2024 Q4 is doing well, not only in terms of GDP, but also in terms of final sales. Inflation has remained stable at between 2% and 2.5%. The PCA forecast is slightly less optimistic than the CQM forecast, with economic growth rate about 1% lower and inflation rate about 1% higher. The difference between the CQM and PCA forecast suggests the December retail sales and industrial production index will grow higher, and CPI and PPI growth will be lower. Conclusion from this week's US CQM Forecast Alert. The first, like real GDP, real final sales are forecasted to have grown by 3% in 2024 Q4. The second, CQM forecast inflation to have stabilized at 2% to 2.5% in 2024 Q4. The third, however, compared to the CQM forecast, the PCA's forecast is for economic growth to be about 1% lower and inflation to be about 1% higher in 2024 Q4, which is less optimistic outlook than the CQM's. The fourth, the gap between the CQM and PCA forecast suggests high growth in retail sales and industrial production index and low growth in CPI and PPI for December. This slide contains additional information about this week's detailed CQM forecast.